Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this video I'm going to take a look at Shaman in Saviors of Uldum. I'll take a look at the new upcoming Shaman cards, the existing Shaman archetypes and potential new Shaman archetypes in the new expansion. Overall, Shaman looks like it's going to be one of the winners of Saviors of Uldum. It's getting a lot of tools to help buff up its existing archetypes and it's getting some new archetypes as well, so good time to be a Shaman player. The cards themselves, first is the quest, Corrupt the Waters. Quest plays 6 Battlecry cards and reward is Heart of Vernal, which is a 2-mana hero power that your Battlecries this turn will trigger twice. So you kind of want to combine this with lots of cheap Battlecries, because then you press that 2-mana button and then you might be able to use multiple Battlecries and take advantage of it. The quest criterion is really easy to fulfill. This is a very simple thing. Shamans already run a lot of Battlecry stuff and they can run even more, so that looks very promising. And there's also some new Battlecry minions for Shaman, like the Sandstorm Elemental. A 2-mana 2/2 Elemental Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions, overload 1. So you get an Elemental body on the board and you deal AoE damage to enemy minions only. What's there not to like? This one looks really sweet. Then there's the Evil Totem, the new Lackey generator. At the end of your turn, add a Lackey to your hand, 2-mana 0/2. Protecting that can always be an issue, but still, you're guaranteed at least 1 Lackey, so looks good. And then the Lackey synergy card, Weaponized Wasp, 3-mana 3/3 beast. Battlecry, if you control a Lackey, deal 3 damage. That's so good. Just a lot of support for this Battlecry Lackey style. And that's not all that has support, like Control Shaman is getting support. Plague of Murlocs, transform all minions into random Murlocs. There are lots of Shaman decks that could be interested in this. It all depends on how the meta is going to shape up. This is the ultimate answer to Conjurer's Calling and Giants. Giants becoming Murlocs. Wow, sweet. And another board clear for Control Shaman, the Earthquake. 7 mana, deal 5 damage to all minions, then deal 2 damage to all minions. This is symmetrical, it deals damage on both sides of the board, so this is more clearly a Control Shaman card. And then other cards, Vecina is looking really strong too, the new Shaman legendary minion. 4 mana 2/6, while you're overloaded, your other minions have +2 attack. So it's like a mini Bloodlust, or rather a mini Savage Roar, but anyway, that you can have constantly active. Wow. And Moku Flesh Shaper, 7 mana 3/4 rush, costs 1 less for each minion on the battlefield. So this has the potential to be a 0 mana 3/4 rush, and you can never underestimate 0 mana cards. I think this is looking really sweet for all sorts of token builds. Then there is some totem support with Totemic Surge, 0 mana, give your totems +2 attack, and Splitting Axe, 4 mana 3/2 weapon, Battlecry, summon copies of your totems. I haven't figured out how to use these yet, but there have been synergies with tokens in Shaman before, and sometimes they have been good, so maybe there is a way. Overall, Shaman set is looking really powerful. Looking into existing Shaman archetypes, the best performing Shaman archetype lately has been Murloc Shaman, and Murloc Shaman is actually getting some upgrades in the form of neutral cards from the new set, Mermy and Fishflinger, 2 new Murlocs. 1 mana 1/1 Reborn, that's a great 1-drop. 2 mana 3/2 Battlecry, add a random Murloc to each player's hand. Well, if you're playing with Murlocs and your opponent is not, then what do you think? How valuable is that random Murloc going to be to them? Not very valuable, compared to how valuable the random Murloc is going to be to you, and that's much more valuable. Really interesting additions to Murloc Shaman. The second most successful Shaman archetype in Rise of Shadows has been the Aggro Overload Shaman. And Vecina is looking interesting. Vecina is maybe more of a token deck card, but you could slot it into Aggro Overload too, because you're always running Thunderhead. You're always getting some of these tokens on the board, and you're almost always overloaded. So getting that Vecina burst into Aggro Overload Shaman looks like an interesting option. The third Shaman archetype that has been able to get over 50% win rates on higher ranks in the ladder is the mid-range Token Shaman. So you make some tokens, you use Battlecries that summon stuff, then you use Bloodlust, you use the Stormbringer. this deck has been a little bit inconsistent, and I think in its current form it's not going to survive. But it has a couple of interesting approaches that it can take. This sort of form a champ idea, this is probably going to get incorporated into the quest shaman, so the quest shell. But there might also be another way to build the mid-range token build, because Vecina gives you that +2 attack when you're overloaded, then there's the Mogu Flesh Shaper, a free rush minion in many cases. So I could see the deck going for a slightly lower curve, more emphasis on token generation, running Vecina, running Mogu Flesh Shaper. That's one way. The former champ way is probably going to be incorporated into the quest build. Control Shaman has not found a lot of success. This is the currently most popular Control Shaman, and that's also one reason why it hasn't found much success, because this is a dragon build, and these dragon builds are pretty bad. The non-dragon build has already been stronger, but even that one has suffered from inconsistency. You can build it to beat Aggro, or you can build it to beat Warrior, but you just can't do both. Can you do both in the future? Well, we're getting Earthquake, we're getting Plague of Murlocs, so we're getting more removal tools for Shaman. That means that Shaman could more comfortably go for that very long fatigue game with Archivist Aliciana, Shudderwock, having that double Archivist available, just removing threats. That's one way you can take Control Shaman. Another way is to try to go with King Faoris, then Hagatha the Witch is going to fill your hand with spells, so you're always going to get a board full with King, and then Shudderwock repeats the King Battle Cry. Depending on whether it repeats the King Battle Cry before Hagatha or after Hagatha, you may or may not have a board after that one too. So there are a couple of alternatives, but this sort of going to the fatigue Control Shaman is definitely getting some major tools. Finally, some Shaman players have been playing Big Shaman, although Big Shaman has been like a 43% win rate deck, it just hasn't been good enough. And given the pressure from all these other things what every other Shaman deck is getting, I don't really expect Big Shaman to become a thing. But Big Shaman has some hilarious high roll potential, because if you can Muck Murpher a Colossus of the Moon, and then let's say you can Ancestral Spirit that, then that could just be GG, and it might just win the game on the spot. But overall, Big Shaman suffers from lack of consistency, and it doesn't have enough space for all the board clears, so it has some clear weaknesses. And even though the Colossus of the Moon Muck Murpher could be hilarious, I don't think it's enough to save the archetype. And if it's 43% turn now, then it's probably going to be 40% or less in the future. So the Shaman archetypes are going to see a lot of changes, some of them are splitting apart into multiple directions, many of them will not resemble their current state very much, and then there's one that's pretty new one, which is the Quest Shaman. Just corrupt the waters, try to abuse those battle cries. You want a lot of cheap stuff in the deck, so that you can really get multiple battle cries off in a single turn. And that's just going to give you so much value and such huge burst damage as well that it will be hard for the opponents to keep up. This is my theorycraft of what Quest Shaman could look like. Maybe I went a little bit too heavy on the battle cries. There could be some non-battle cry cards in the deck too, but the potential is just so immense. You probably want all of the Lackey generators, I think that's a given, because you definitely want to run Weaponized Wasp. And you want to run Swamp Queen Hagatha, because doubling up that Swamp Queen Hagatha getting 2 horrors, that's incredible. Even though Hagatha is an expensive card and not a cheap card like you otherwise want to have. And you obviously want to run Shadowwalk because you have tons of battle cries. And stuff like Former Champ, because you can play that right after completing Corrupt the Waters maybe. That's going to be pretty effective. Siamat getting all of its keywords potentially. Pretty effective stuff. The main question is really what sort of defensive tools you would like to have in this. Like, would you like to include stuff like Plague of Murlocs? In this version I'm going with the okay, I'm being proactive all the time. And when I don't want to be proactive, I'm just going to discover what I need from like Vulbra Scoundrels. But we'll see what the final form is going to be like, but there's going to be so much value in completing the quest and getting that hero power that this is one of the more promising looking archetypes coming into the new expansion. So, things are looking good for Shaman. It's even possible that Shaman is able to rise up to ranks to become one of the top classes. It's definitely getting a lot of tools. It has a lot of archetypes. It would be a small miracle if none of them was able to be successful.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.